Hi folks, thank you for tuning in to our edition of Meeting the Interpreter. For this newsletter, the theme is Changing Times. We want to thank Jihan Abushakib today for joining us and for giving us a little bit of information about herself, and hopefully you get to understand Jihan a little bit more, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the changing times or the changing landscape in the interpreting industry. John, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here again at the AHEC offices.
John, I'd like to just ask you a couple of questions about yourself. How long have you been with Northern Virginia AHEC?
I've been with AHEC since I moved to the US, since 2005. And I started out at first as a language services coordinator in the office here. I used to do what Valerie and Blanca do right now. Mostly scheduling interpreters, coordinating translation requests, and then I became, after 3-4 years, I became communications manager. I was taking care of the newsletter, the website, and since then, 5 years ago, I left for another job in journalism, and I've been interpreting, freelancing since then.
Since then?
Yeah.
And how did you learn about Northern Virginia AHEC? How did you get involved with AHEC?
I found it online. I mean, when I was first applying for jobs when I moved to the US, I was looking for something for a company that dealt with language services because that's what my background is. I'm a translator. I have a bachelor's degree in translation.
And you studied that in Lebanon, correct?
I studied that in Lebanon, and I came, here fresh from undergrad, and then I wanted to find something in languages to use my language skills, and I found this job at AHEC. I applied and I came interviewed, got the job, and yeah, that's it.
And that's it. Okay. How often do you travel back to Lebanon?
Every year I go.
Wow.
I go back. Yes, my family's here. My parents, my sisters, my husband. We all live in the Northern Virginia area, but we all go back every year. Unless there is war happening or something really dangerous
Right,
going
some
on,
kind of conflict going on.
just like now. So yeah, and we talk in Arabic at home. We're so we're always practicing our Arabic. We're in touch with all our family back home. So we stay culturally involved.
Aware,
Yeah.
right, and you stay current with the language, and you
Exactly.
practice it really good.
Yeah.
Is Arabic the only language that you interpret and translate for, or?
No, I actually also interpret it and translate from French and into French. That's my second language, or it used to be my second language until I moved here, and then it all became jumbled up, between English and French. But yeah, so English, French, and Arabic.
Wow, that's a lot.
I speak some Spanish too, but
Okay.
yeah, I can't compete with you.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I barely speak English in this. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Is there any Jihan trivia, a little bit of detail that you'd like for the interpreters to know?
Well, I would trivia. I love languages. I love linguistics. I'm a grammar freak. I feel like I'm always sitting, looking up rules. I want to know exactly why this is wrong, why this is right, why this is done like this. It's a little bit freaky for my friends. I'm always correcting people's copies, like I'm looking at reading things, I'm always copy editing. Books, I always find mistakes in books when I'm reading. So yeah, I also love painting. I took up painting a couple of years ago, and I found out that I love it, even though I never thought I had an ounce of creativity in me. But something happened, and I became artistic all of a sudden. Yeah.
Wow, wow, that's
Yeah.
great. I can see you also interpreting, probably always thinking, what's the best way to say this? Correcting, what is the best way?
Yep.
Which is good. Interpreters do that a lot. They're always thinking.
Yeah, we can't take a lot of time doing that, but yeah, I am.
Right, you do that just
Yeah.
automatically. And
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use one word and then I keep thinking in my mind, I know there's a better word, so next time it comes up, if it does come up, I use
Right.
the other word. So yeah,
Right.
that's true.
So folks, one of the reasons we've also asked Jihan to come in and do this interview with us. It's also because we want to discuss a little bit of the changing times. And as I mentioned earlier, there have been a lot of changes that have been going on in the interpreting industry. I'd like to have Jahan, actually she's been here since 2005, to discuss some of the changes she's noticed as an interpreter in the industry. Jahan, you've had quite a bit of experience with ACAC and have interpreted for a multitude of different types of situations. Any particular changes that you've noticed in the last several years or since your tenure here at ACAC?
Well, generally speaking, one thing I've noticed is definitely there has been a huge increase in the number of requests for interpretation in general. You know, I remember when I first started working at the office here, you know, we had an average of 10 requests per day, 10 assignments per day for interpretation. You know, 2 years, 3 years after that, it, you know, turned into double this at least. Today, you know, there's almost like an average of 45, 50 assignments per day. This, you know, there's definitely a bigger awareness of interpreters, the need for interpreters in the healthcare system, in the school system. And that's one of the biggest changes I have noticed from working here. But also, this comes along with the fact that providers are more aware of what we should be doing, of what interpreters are required to do, of our code of ethics. A lot of times providers now jump in to, you know, to let us know if not let us know, let the clients know that, you know, an interpreter is not supposed to be doing such and such. I can give an example of that. I had physical therapy interpretation not too long ago, and you know, I established the guidelines at first. I told the patient, you know, please talk directly to the client. You know, I'm only going to be interpreting here. Don't look at me. Look at the provider.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the same with the provider. And then, you know, 5 minutes into the meeting, the patient started talking to me, having side conversations, you know, asking me where are you from and what do you speak. And I automatically told him again in Arabic, you know, I'm not really supposed to have a side conversation with you. I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. Now, the provider who doesn't speak any Arabic, I think she kind of, you know, she knew that he was addressing, you know, talking to me. She could tell from his body language, and then she could tell from my body language that I was not too comfortable, you know, that I told him something. So what she did is she went and in English, because the patient spoke some English, you know, she went and she told him, actually, you know, she's not supposed to talk to you, so, you know, just like address the conversation to me. So it was surprising for me, because I'm like, wow, they're really aware of how things should be doing, and now they're helping us, you know, keep establishing our guidelines.
Yes.
So that was nice.
I can definitely corroborate what Jahan is saying here. Yes, there is a larger demand with the industry.
Yeah.
Along with that demand, in fact, even clients have begun to become aware of what best practices are. They're doing their own research. They're beginning to observe interpreters now. So now it's not just us, Northern Virginia ACAC, going and doing the shadows, what used to be called shadows or interpreter performance observations. Our clients are beginning to do those as well. They're beginning to understand the functions of how things are. So I think that's one of the things that you were mentioning, is that they're beginning to know what is the expectation of a professional interpreter.
So we should be even more careful, not just from
always.
Ines or Ruma, you know, coming to shadow us. Now somebody
Always,
else.
you may never know. Yeah,
that's good to know.
How about changes internally here in the organization? Have you noticed any changes in the past years?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the biggest change I think we all agree on would be the database, the way we are receiving our the requests now, our assignments, the need to print them out, the need to always like be checking to see if it's canceled. It happened to me last month or 2 months ago when I was assigned an assignment, and I went that night and it turned out it was canceled, but I didn't know that I had forgotten actually that I needed to to check the database to see if there was any cancellation. Unless it's last minute, they don't call us for that. So so these things. I mean, we definitely need to stay current with our assignments. We definitely need to always like submit the encounter forms on time within 24 hours, fax them in. These things have changed. It used to be, I think interpreters used to be more relaxed about these things before, and now, if you want this as a career, you want to keep doing it, I mean, on a daily basis, definitely be more aware.
Yeah, part of our goal is definitely, we want to stay relevant, and our clients are having more needs and demands, and the information, a lot of this information is needed a lot sooner. Some of the changes you were mentioning are our encounter forms, for example, changed. They have little barcodes now, and they need to be submitted faster. Also, no, go ahead.
If I may, I mean, even the different encounter forms, like customized encounter forms for each client, or feedback forms,
That's
even
correct.
Customized,
And this has changed a lot. There's a big need now for you to have a smartphone. Before AHIC interpreters, we used to run on pagers.
Yes.
And we used to rely just on getting a page and after on. So this has changed quite a bit. We've had a lot of different new clients now, hence the customization. We're going into different locations.
We're going into DC, more into Maryland. I mean, yeah.
And now that I have Jahan here, and something I'd also like to mention to the interpreters is, now that the industry is becoming more, I guess, recognizable, or is becoming recognized. You mentioned that providers are beginning to know what expectations or what they need or want from a professional interpreter. Interpreters also, since now we are more a part of the care team, provider team, interpreters are going to be requested and required to be aware and mindful, for example, of some of the requirements of working in a healthcare system, knowing how to put on a mask, knowing how to put on and remove gloves, gowns, how to work in restricted areas. These are going to be requirements that are going to be up and becoming now, that have been and are going to be enforced a lot more for interpreters.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, it reminds me, my husband had an interpretation. He's also an interpreter with AHEC, and he had an interpretation where he had to go into an operation room, and they made him, dress up basically, wear the scrubs and the mask, everything. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice to know about the rules of the hospitals, about restricted areas, about safety for us and for the patients, for everybody.
Exactly. Well, good, Jahan. If I were to ask you a word of wisdom for our viewing interpreters, what would you say?
Well, I mean, for me, the most important for an interpreter is to always be really well prepared before going to an assignment. What that requires is, reading up as much as we can on the subject before we go, especially if it's a new subject that we're interpreting for. Getting as much information from the AHAC office before going to the assignment, and then getting ready, reading up in both languages. Going ready, it just gives us much more confidence when we get to the assignment. Also, attending seminars and conferences. I used to attend a lot of those when I was working with AHEC, and I wish I could do more of them now if I had more time, but I would definitely recommend going to those, because it gave me lots of contacts, first of all, like networking with other interpreters, other organizations. Also, like seeing what's new, what's trendy, what's changing in the field. So yeah, those things. Reading up blogs. There are a few blogs out there that are really interesting. Translation and interpretation. These are always fun, and they give tips on, information about new conferences, or tips on, what's happening, what's changing. So yeah, read up.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jahan. Thank you very much, and thank you, folks.
Thank you.
I want to thank all the interpreters definitely for staying relevant and for adapting to the changes. We want to thank you for your commitment to our standards, your code of ethics, and to quality, and for your commitment to Northern Virginia AHEC. We are definitely an organization committed to language access. So thank you. Till next time.